You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth.
And Brian.
So we are going to be doing a lot of discussion this week. We got some news, we got some Disney cruise information, a trip report from Brian, and we're going to do some more of the March magic that we've got going on. So let's dive into the news and get right into it. Looks like first up on our news, we have I guess kind of a refurbish coming to Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular at Hollywood Studios. It seems that this attraction has survived the fate of the chopping block that most of the studios has seen in the last couple of years for Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. But it looks like with the new theme of Hollywood Studios, we are seeing a change to Indiana Jones. The speculation is that the working studio theming of the actual stunt show is going to be removed and favored more for just an action adventure show. That way it kind of keeps with whatever the theme of studios is now. It seems that the attraction is going to be going down from 2020 to 2021, so spanning a full year of refurbishments. Very interesting. I'm surprised that this one's making it through.
Yeah, I kind of am too. I don't know how much, continuing fandom there is for Indiana Jones. I mean, obviously there's still people that like it, but its relevancy nowadays, I don't know how relevant it actually is, but I guess it's cool to see that they have, this still there.
Weren't they supposed to be making like a newer movie soon too?
I think the last one met with such awful reviews that they probably scrapped that.
Maybe.
Well, at the end of this article, it says that the new version is set to debut in the summer of 2021 in kind of conjunction with the scheduled release of Indiana Jones 5 in theaters.
Oh, yeah. Because I thought that the whole deal with The Force Awakens was that Harrison Ford would come back to play Han Solo if they did another Indiana Jones movie. Like, I believe that was part of it.
Trick him into it. They're like, hey, you hate playing Han Solo, but we'll give you another Indy movie.
It seems so backwards, but all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, as sad as I am to kind of see that they're taking out the working studio theme that Hollywood Studios used to have part of the show, I guess, it doesn't really make sense for it to have that part, but I feel sad that they seem to be removing all of the guest interaction in these types of shows.
I wonder if they'll find a way to keep some of the guest interaction in this one. Yeah, I feel like there's really not much they can do, but I wonder if they will find a way to do it.
Well, so Brian, you've seen the new show, the Flights of Wonder show, right?
Yes.
Do they do any sort of guest interaction like they used to?
Yeah, it's still interactive. I would say it's not as much, but they still have someone stand up and have one of the birds come out to them and stuff. They don't do the dollar bill trick anymore, which is weird because I thought that was like everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
But it's still interactive. I would say it's less so, but definitely still interactive.
Okay, well that gives me some hope.
So next up we have Wonders of Life is officially closed down and construction is beginning on the new play pavilion. It looks like they walled off the Wonders of Life pavilion, at least the walkway to it, and they're starting to break ground on this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago for anyone curious. It looks like they're going to be revamping that section for a new entrance and a new interactive pavilion in Epcot. That feels really soon after they made that announcement.
Hey, that's good. I'm glad they're jumping on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they're rolling with it, and I'm happy about that. It just, I don't know, something feels so weird about that. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of an announcement for Disney come out and then like the next week they were working on it.
Yeah.
So last up, kind of an interesting story here. A mermaid school is going to be offered at several Disney World resorts. Guests ages 4 and older can take part in an hour-long class where they'll be fitted with a swimmable tail and led through activities, teaching them how to swim in a pool like a mermaid. It looks like it's going to be offered at Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, and Disney's Yacht and Beach Club. Classes are $50 a person plus tax, which isn't horrible, and open mid-March, and you can book that through the 407 WDW Play number.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think at least the resorts that they chose, it seems kind of relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Like water-related / Art of Animation having the Little Mermaid rooms. My question is there an age limit?
I can't imagine that there would be.
It's just really interesting because they always seem to have an age limit, and this one just says 4 and older.
Honestly, I'm surprised they're letting guests that young do this because of like the risks of them being able to swim or not. Like, have you ever tried to like just play around, like put your feet together and like swim like a mermaid? Like that's difficult. It's hard for me to believe that.
Have you, Brian?
Well, I mean, like everyone's, or maybe what is a dolphin better? You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Brian. If you want to be a mermaid, you can be a mermaid. Okay, like no one's judging you.
But I'm just curious as to like. They better have a lot of lifeguards on duty for this event because I feel there's going to be a lot of people struggling.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting. I would love to walk by this class happening for sure.
Yeah, I kind of want to see this happening too in like a weird way. Oh. So that said, I guess we can start diving into our topic this week.
Diving.
Yeah. Bad pun segue. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who just got back from his Disney cruise. I'm so excited to hear about this and hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So, I guess first off, I'll say that it was a very interesting feeling because like for the past 3 years living in Florida, you know, going to Disney World isn't really a vacation to me anymore. So having this like Disney trip actually coming up and like being excited for, you know, the planning of it and just it, you know, of it coming up was exciting, and I haven't really felt that in a long time. At the same time, right now, we just got off the ship yesterday as of us recording it tonight, and I'm experiencing that Disney hangover that I haven't really experienced in a long time either. So that's kind of the downside. But yeah, all in all, it was really great. I've got a lot of stuff here that I'm going to try to go over, kind of a trip report / review of it. But yeah, so me and my wife took a 7-night cruise. It was a Western Caribbean one on the Disney Fantasy, leaving from Port Canaveral. We took stops in Tortola, St. Thomas, and then Castaway Cay, Disney's private island. And as I go through this, I'm going to say I went on 2 Royal Caribbean cruises in the last 2 years or so. So I feel like I have a pretty good comparison as to, you know, what I guess a normal cruise would be like to compare the stuff that Disney did good at. I'm going to say just right off the bat, cruise was incredible. I really enjoyed my Royal Caribbean cruises too, but aside from probably one minor thing that I'll get into later, some stuff Royal Caribbean did just as good as Disney, I would say, but there was nothing that I thought that they did better than Disney, and there were so many things about the Disney cruise that I thought was better than Royal. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was. I had very high expectations going into this, and they were met and then exceeded. So, just straight off the bat, I'll get into it at the end about, you know, about who I think it's worth it for and if it's worth it and everything. But just all in all, it was fantastic.
I should, before you get started on this is a topic that we've gotten suggestions for a couple times. I know a while back, one of our listeners, Juliet, had asked about it. That's the one that we specifically have saved in here, but we've had this question asked a lot. So I'm really happy that you got to go on it. And you
I'm
can
very
just
happy too.
Oh, I'm sure you are. And I also have to say, when we set up this call to like start recording the podcast, I could tell that you were in like that like post Disney like depression bubble vacation thing, because the second you got on, you were like, "Hey," and it was just the way you said it. I was like, "Oh no."
And it was like, and this morning was the first morning, that I woke up and I wasn't on the boat, so that was kind of sad. But anyways, I'll get into all the good things. First off, arriving at the terminal. Okay, first off, I live 30 minutes away from Port Canaveral, so that was already super convenient for me. But arriving at the terminal, Disney did just an incredible job. I can't even put this into words. I went on a Royal cruise out of Fort Lauderdale and out of Port Canaveral. And I know, first of all, that Port Canaveral just in itself, with the stuff that isn't controlled by the cruise companies, like they are a lot more convenient and set up. I felt like a lot better with like getting guests through than Fort Lauderdale was. But even on top of that, Disney went well and above what Royal did. So when you first get there, there's cast members taking your suitcases and everything, directing you where to go. There's an initial security where you just go through, and they check your ID and everything. You go to the actual like terminal security where you go through the bags and the metal detector, where they take your bags through, and you go through the metal detector and everything. And then you are in the Disney terminal at that point. Once we got into the Disney terminal, all the cast members are there, and this part of the check-in was just absolutely amazing. They have a row of a counter with cast members working at it, and there were probably at least 25 cast members at this counter. Every spot was filled up, and they were checking people in. We literally walked through security. A cast member took us up to another cast member that was working at the check-in desk, checked us in, took our pictures, gave us our Key to the World cards. That took like 3 minutes. And then we got in the line to actually get on the ship. So at this point, I think part of this was us showing up at a good time, but also Disney just doing an incredible job handling it. But we showed up right as they were allowing boarding onto the ship. And we stood in line for maybe 5 minutes getting on the ship. And the only reason that happened was because they have where you take the picture opportunity beforehand, and they had too many people on the actual gangway onto the ship. And that was the only reason we had to wait. But all in all, from the time we got to the terminal, by the time we got out of the car at the terminal, we were on the ship in 20 minutes. So that's through security, through boarding, through everything, 20 minutes. And it was so cool. Because I remember, especially on Royal, they did a decent job at Canaveral, but it probably still took 45 minutes to an hour for us to get on the boat. And the way Disney handled this with all the cast members helping you out was just above and beyond. So it really, really started off the cruise on a great note.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see. After that, we got onto the boat, and this was really cool. As you're walking into the ship, they have a cast member standing there, and they check your Key to the World card that you've gotten. And they have 8 other cast members standing in a row, when you first walk onto the ship, and they announce you over a speaker. They'll say here's the so-and-so family, welcome to the cruise and everything, and all the other cast members clap for you. And it's just a really cool way, again, that Disney is just going above and beyond to make you feel special as you're walking onto the boat. But it's cool. So you come out into the ship's main atrium, which is like a 3-story opening in the middle of the ship, and it's where they did a lot of the like some of the entertainment things and everything. But it has like the typical like cruise ship winding staircase that goes up the floors and everything. But really beautiful little area. Has the little Minnie Mouse and what was it, like what they call it, the flapper costume, like is the statue when you walk on the ship and everything. But yeah, it's really nice. One thing too that I really noticed that I liked was that a lot of the floors on the main areas of the ship were marble instead of them being like carpeted on most of the Royal cruises that I was on. So I thought that was another neat little touch that Disney went above and beyond on.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a little section here just to kind of go over the cruise detail. So again, we went on the Fantasy, which I think it's one of Disney's bigger boats as of now. I know they've got the two original ones are a little bit smaller now. The Fantasy, and I forget, I think I'm going to say it's the Wonder. I'm not very knowledgeable on Disney cruise stuff.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
Yeah, or the two bigger ones. So they are 14-deck ships. They each have 3 main restaurants and 2 additional dining restaurants. I'll get into that a little bit later too. On mine, I don't know about the other ones. Again, this is just about the Fantasy mainly. They have the Aqueduct, which is like their water roller coaster. It's really similar to Crush and Gusher at Typhoon Lagoon. It's a little bit less intense, but it's pretty cool because when you first get on it, it actually like kind of swings out like over the edge of the ship and then back onto it, which is a neat little view and makes it a little bit more exciting. But it's pretty cool. They have the main pool area, and of course they have a Mickey-shaped pool in it. And then they have what they call the funnel vision, which is like the big screen that they project up there. And throughout the day, they'll do different entertainment stuff, but they're almost always showing a Disney movie on that screen throughout the day. So it's really cool. You can go out there and sit out by the pool and then watch a movie. Aside from that, there's like a couple of like little small wading pools for toddler around the main pool. And then they've got little like splash pad areas. They've got one like Finding Nemo themed and then like a Donald Duck themed one. But there is also a large adults only area. And this is going to kind of get into one thing that I was worried about going onto this, that they did such a good job of it. I was really worried that, a lot of this stuff was going to be themed, or like not themed, but made for families with small children and catered really specifically to children and stuff. That was 100% not the case. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that if you are maybe not even a Disney fan per se, but you're just a young couple or a couple that doesn't have kids, or it's great because they do such a great job at like separating the adults from the kids if you want to. Like if you're a family, there's plenty of family areas where everyone can hang out, but there are so many areas on that ship that are set aside just for adults. One of the pool decks is set aside only for adults, and it has its own set of hot tubs, its own pools, areas to lay out, and like it's a really big part of the ship. And there's other stuff throughout the ship too. There's plenty of bars that are that are adults only, obviously. But one big thing too, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, but there was so much adult entertainment and like adult only activities throughout the day. And when we went on Royal, they had a lot of stuff at night that was just for adults, but it was really only at night. Disney did stuff like seriously from probably like 10 in the morning through 2 a.m. that was set aside that was adults only. So I would say if you don't have kids, or you're worried even if you're you have a family, but you're worried like, oh, I'm gonna have to do stuff with the kids all the time. We're not gonna be able to go off and do our own things. Do not worry about that at all. There is so much stuff for just adults to do on this boat. Let's see. So just some more ship details. There was the Walt Disney Theater, which was their main theater that they held the big entertainment shows at each night. They have a smaller theater, which was the Buena Vista Theater, and it did some smaller shows and stuff. But the other cool thing is that it showed movies throughout the day, and a lot of them were new releases, and some of them were even things that are in theaters right now, and it wasn't any additional cost to see. Like, I think they did a couple showings of Captain Marvel.
What?
Yeah, and then they had a couple other recent, I know they showed Mary Poppins Returns and Christopher Robin, which I think those are out now, but they're recent releases. But there was stuff throughout the day that they showed there. There was always a movie going on, so I thought that was really cool. They for stuff like Captain Marvel, they probably could have charged for that and people would have paid it, but they included it in the price. So
that's really cool. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super cool, especially if you have any intentions to see those movies. Do it while you're on a cruise ship and for free. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Did it run in all day long, throughout the night, or was it just during certain hours? Do you know?
No, it was just through certain hours. I guess one thing I should probably touch on real quick too before I get too far. I don't know if any of y'all have been on cruises, but if you go on one, they usually have a little navigator thing, like a sheet of paper that they hand out that have activities listed throughout the days, and where they're held at and everything. Disney will give you those if you ask for them, but they really push everybody to use the Disney Cruise Line app, which is kind of like the electronic version of that. It worked pretty well for us. There were a couple of things that could have been a little bit better, but all in all, it was really good. So I guess to answer your question, they only showed it at certain times throughout the day, but it was always you could check the navigator to see when it was.
So, question: since you said they have an app, and we always bash on the Parks app, worse or better?
I'm gonna say better. It had a couple hiccups. I'm not, it wasn't perfect. It part of it, I think, is just it being a Disney app, and there's always seems like there's some little bug going on in it. The other thing too is that you're on a cruise ship, so the majority of the time you don't have cell service.
Yeah.
The cool thing though is that I don't know exactly how it works, but Disney has, I guess, their own service that allows you to just use the app. So you didn't have to be connected to your cell service or pay for the Wi-Fi on the ship. You could still access the app and have it update, even if you didn't have internet access. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
At the same time, though, I feel like that kind of led to a couple of the hiccups with it not wanting to update sometimes and everything. But all in all, I think Disney had a good solution, for that problem, for them trying to push using an app when you might not always have internet service. So I give it an 8.5 out of 10. It worked fairly well. So I guess other things on the ship, there's a number of different lounges, where they do different entertainment and activities throughout the day. A bunch of bars around the pool, in different areas of the ship. There, one thing that I love too is just the art on the ship. Obviously, it's Disney art, but a lot of it is really, really subtle Disney art. Some of it was concept drawings, but it wasn't. Some of it was it seemed like so early. It wasn't even you wouldn't even probably notice it was Disney concept art if it was not on a Disney cruise ship. But it was really cool stuff. obviously, like, it would be cool, you just go up a random staircase that we hadn't gone through yet on the cruise, and like seeing the new picture and go, oh, look at that. Just really, really cool stuff. And then one last thing that I'm going to talk about for a little bit is the spa that they have on board, which they also call the Senses Spa. And in particular, I'm going to talk about what they call the rainforest room. So my wife actually found out about this like a couple weeks before we went on the trip and told me about it, and it sounded really cool. So we ended up deciding to do it. The rainforest room it's an additional cost thing that you can pay for either before you get on the cruise or after you get on it. But what it is it allows you access to this kind of exclusive area of the spa, and you can either buy single day passes or you can buy a pass that lets you get on it for the entire cruise whenever you want. We opted to do it for the entire cruise, and I think this was probably our favorite like additional cost thing that we did on the cruise ship, and it was well worth it. So I'll say it was $200 for both of us to do it, and that was for 7 days. What they do is you come in, you go to the spa, and they give you a little sticker that you put on Key to the World card. And when you get there, you show it to them that you have the pass. They give you like a robe, and they give you like 3 different choices of these salt scrubs of different scents that you can get. So then you get to go into the actual rainforest room. So the rainforest room has a sauna, 2 different steam rooms, I think it was 4 or 5 different aromatherapy showers, which was really cool. It would had like different types of shower heads in each one, and obviously each one was like a different scent. And you'd go in there and you'd like push the button, and it would do different like themed showers, I guess you would say. For example, one was like rainforest waterfall, which is really cool. So you go in there and it would like spray a scent out, and it smelled like you were in the rainforest. And it had like a hot shower that felt like rain on top of you, but then it also had like this cold waterfall shower that like poured on you at the same time. So, and then let's see what they have. They had like a cold mist one that you could do too with I forget, it was like a minty kind of smell they added to it. But those were really cool. They had 2 like private hot tubs that you could only get to if you were in this area. That it was really cool. They were like lay down hot tubs. If that makes sense, they were like shaped where you would lay down and like support your legs and your back and everything. And it was on this little private lookout deck, which was really nice because it was like you were away from everybody else. You just in this one little room, and it looked directly out over the ship. So that was nice. But I think the thing that we got the most use out of while we were here, where they have these ceramic tile, what they called sunbeds. So what it was is it's just like a curved, heated like chair that you lay down in, and we used those so much on this trip. It was so great. So we ended up going to the rainforest room every day of the trip except one, and that was just because we were so busy doing other stuff. But it was great. We would get up early and do stuff, and then around about 3 or 4 we would get kind of tired, so we would just go there, chill out in the rainforest room, go take a nap on one of the little heated chairs, and then be ready to go to dinner and like do the entertainment stuff after that. So it was really great. If you're going on a cruise, I would say do the rainforest room. It is such a good add-on.
So you finally got to do your Senses Spa.
Yes, kind of like a mini taste of it. I didn't do any of the like actual massages or anything like that you could do at the spa, but the rainforest room was really awesome. And I think it was a really good price. When we did the cost, it was less than $15 a day for us to do it. So it it's not bad at all.
Nice.
So, guess the next section I've got here is dining. So, I'll just say right off the bat, the dining on the boat is incredible. It was better than Royal's for sure, and I think Royal had really good food too, but Disney just did it one step above, if not two. Like it was just in every way better. Like quality of food you got, the variety you got, it was just absolutely incredible. So the way that Disney dining works on the boat is that instead of going to one dining room that just kind of like rotates menu each night, like most other cruise ships, there's actually 3 different themed restaurants that you rotate throughout the cruise. And you stick with your same server and assistant server like you normally do on a cruise ship. They follow you to each restaurant each night, so they really get to know you. Know kind of like the stuff you like. If you have dietary restrictions or anything like that, they catch on very quick, and they are, they know what to do. For example, like my server was just incredible. I think I was joking around with my wife. I was like, at some point in the day, if not multiple times, like I had a steak. At one point in the day, whether for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, I had it. And, really quickly, my server learned like how I liked my steak and everything, and learned that I was getting a steak like added on almost every night because there's no cost. So, it was like, he's like, steak, you want medium? Yes, yes, yes. And just like, so they did a great job. But the restaurant theming was just incredible. Absolutely what you would expect from Disney. The first one that we started out is called Animator's Palette, and it's pretty cool. It's themed after Disney animation. They have screens set up that rotate through like different Disney concept art, and everything's like artist theme, like the little touches, like the butter knives are shaped like paint brushes, and just stuff like that. And it was cool. It was probably the least fancy of the 3 restaurants, but I think I enjoyed it the most because of how interactive it was. So because they had the screens that would rotate through the different animation, I guess that allowed them to do other cool things too. The biggest one was that the first night it was basically like Turtle Talk with Crush that rotated around to the different tables. So they would have some guy come on that was being Crush and would like talk to the guests and like interact with them, get them to do stuff. Like he started like he had the restaurant do a wave at one point, and he would just sit there and joke around and go back and forth with the guests. So that was just a really cool touch that Disney did well. One of the coolest things though was on the last night of the trip, they do this thing where you come in and they give you a piece of paper, and you're supposed to create a character. So they give you a section to like draw the character's head, the torso, the arms, the feet, the legs, everything. And you turn it in right before your server takes your order. Well, they take all those and scan them in, I guess. And at the end, they have this really cool like interactive Disney montage where like the character that you draw gets put into the animation and like interacts with the characters through it. So it's really cool because as you're sitting there, you can like watch the show and it'll be like, oh look, hey, here's mine coming up, and like you'll see your character that you drew like interacting with like Mickey Mouse or something on the screen doing something. So
that's really cool.
It's just really good. There's so much stuff that is just like, like we always say, like Disney doesn't have to do this, but they do it, and it takes it one step further, and it's just they knock it out of the park. So the other 2 restaurants are kind of like the fancier, what you would probably expect at like a fine dining on a cruise ship. One of them is Enchanted Gardens, and it was probably my least favorite themed, but it was still very good. It was just like a just garden type theming, I guess. But it still had like cool interactive elements to it. There were these flowers that were like hung from the ceiling above each table. As you slowly watch like throughout the night, they would like open and bloom, and then the lights like around the top that was supposed to be like the sky would change colors and everything. Just a neat little touch from that. And then the third one was called Royal Palace, and it was just Disney princess themed, very heavily like Cinderella themed, but they had different mosaics around the restaurant that showed the different Disney princesses and scenes from the movie. But it was really, really nice. Again, I like the Animator's Palette just because it was interactive and everything, but all three restaurants were just very, very well themed. So aside from the three that are included with your cruise, there's also two like signature dining options that you can pay an additional cost for. We didn't end up doing them, but the people that we actually sat with did, and they said it was incredible. I've heard really good reviews from those. So one is Palo and the other is Remy. I think they're both like French. Maybe one of them is French and one of them is Italian themed food, but supposedly they're really good.
I've heard good things about Palo, but obviously I haven't been on a Disney cruise, so I can't say anything.
Another neat thing too, again, it was just like something that Disney, we think, went the extra mile for. So me and my wife were sat with two other couples that were our age for dinners, and we were sitting there talking with them about it, and we were just like, this is probably not a coincidence. Like we feel like Disney really like went through and tried to like put people together that would so because it was like there probably weren't a whole lot of like mid to late 20-year-old couples on the boat, but the three of us got set together, so we thought that was pretty cool that it looked like Disney tried to do that on purpose. So it was nice.
I've heard that they do stuff like that. Like you said that they match you, like you eat with the same people all the time, right?
Yes.
So yeah, they definitely probably do something like that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because I can't imagine how awful it would be to get sat with like a bunch of little kids if that's not the type of cruise you were after.
Right.
Oh boy.
Let's see. So like pretty much any other cruise ship there, they've got a main buffet, and this one was called Cabanas, and it was kind of like loosely Finding Nemo themed. It was basically just like tropical themed, but then there were a couple like there was a Nigel statue outside of the restaurant, and they had like the seagulls and places over, and then they had this big like Finding Nemo themed mosaic mural in it. But it wasn't really like very like, and I guess another thing on the cruise, like there were very few places where it was really like in your face Disney. Like a lot of it was very, very subtle Disney theming, which was in a way kind of cool. So so there's also like quick service counters that are operating all day with a couple different things that you can eat. And then there was a place called Sweet on You, which was kind of like a mini Main Street bakery that had like special desserts and like gelatos and ice cream that you could get for an additional price. We got a couple of snacks from there, and they were good. You could also just go up to they had the little like quick service ice cream machines throughout the cruise too that you could get for free. But
Dole Whips.
They had Dole Whips, and they also had rum Dole Whips. And if you got a rum Dole Whip, you had 3 different options for rum that you could do. They had like just a regular, like unflavored rum. You could get a vanilla rum, or you could do a spiced rum. And I got
my gosh.
Yeah, I got the vanilla rum one, and it was really, really good.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. So another nice touch for the germaphobes out there is that when you go into the buffet, like on a lot of cruise ships, they usually just have someone out there with like a hand sanitizer thing, like squirting it in your hand. Disney had like multiple like hot water hand washing stations set up for the buffet. So that's another nice little thing. You don't have to worry about, all kids running around with nasty unwashed hands touching all the food. They pretty much make everyone that comes in there wash their hands. So that was nice. And overall, I just say like the food was great. There was a lot of options. If you had a dietary restriction, your servers very quickly wanted to find that out to make sure that they could, if they needed to offer suggestions or anything like that. They had a good variety of vegetarian options. I would say for each dinner, there were like 4 or 5 main courses usually, and then there were always 2 vegetarian options, and they would also I think one of the girls that ate with us was vegetarian. She never came out and said it, but it seemed like she was always ordering vegetarian stuff. And a couple of times, like she had asked if she could substitute something, and they were very accommodating for that and everything. So I would say if you have dietary restrictions or you're vegetarian or vegan, like they're definitely gonna hook you up.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I'll get to the one thing that I said that maybe Royal did better, and this is kind of just an opinion thing. I don't necessarily think so, but Disney does not offer an all-inclusive drink package like most other cruise ships do. Yes. That being said, they offered some like beer and wine packages. It wasn't like you would get unlimited beer and wine. You could buy like I think you could just like buy 6-packs and stuff at a time, or I think they had like a refillable mug that you could do like X number of times or whatever. But they don't have an all-inclusive drink package. That being said, me and my wife were both extremely surprised at how affordable the drinks were on the cruise.
Really?
Yes, like
Disney World prices?
No, like better.
Really?
We were so surprised because the last Royal cruise I went on, I did not get a drink package, and I thought, well, I don't drink that heavily, so I was like, I'll just buy drinks, and those were on average like $12 to $14 every time I got a drink on a Royal cruise without having the package. Most of the Disney drinks were less than $8, and that included a 15% gratuity.
Oh, wow.
Some of them were even cheaper. A couple of them were more. Like if you went and got like a signature mixed drink at one of the restaurants or something like that was usually around $10. But like a Long Island iced tea was $7 with a 15% gratuity added to it. So just to give you an idea, it's extremely affordable.
Okay. Cool.
Huh. We joked around like, we used to live in Atlanta, and going out and drinking in Atlanta every night was like, or like the nights we go out and drink in Atlanta, it was far, far more expensive than that. And it's like, we thought being on a cruise ship, it was going to be way, way more, but it was not at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. The other thing is that sodas are included at no additional cost. That's usually a package you have to add on a Royal cruise, and I assume on Carnival too. So that was cool that Disney included that too. But aside from the restaurants, the bars were very cool and very well themed. They had one section of the ship that held the majority of the bars, and it was called Europa. And there were a number of different bars, and they were all themed after a different part of Europe. It's like when you first walked in, the first one was called La Piazza, and it was an Italian carousel, which was pretty cool. Like the center of it looked like the carousel, and it had like the lights and everything going around the top. It had a Irish pub. It had another one called Ooh La La, which was like French themed, and it was the like relaxing piano bar. When you walk through, the section where all the bathrooms was like Spanish architecture themed. And then when you went through that, the last one that you got to was called the Tube, and it was like the main big bar there. But it was pretty cool. It was themed after like the London subway. And it also had like a stage in there that they did a ton of different entertainment too. But it was really cool because, it's cool to see Disney putting that much work into the theming, and and it's something that's not like Disney IP themed. So definitely still, good theming on that end.
Nice.
So I think probably the coolest part and what really, really set the cruise above the other ones I've been on is the entertainment on the boat. So first off, I just want to say all the musicians that did like the live music at the bars, or just they would set people up in different areas of the ship just to play music and everything. They were all outstanding, just like absolutely incredible, obviously extremely talented. So Disney did a great touch with that. On top of that, you've got a lot of the stuff that like you normally do on the cruises, the different activities they have where you can go to the different bars or different lounges, and they'll do stuff like the trivias, the game shows, karaoke, that kind of stuff, towel folding. One thing that we did that was pretty cool was the animation classes. I think we ended up going to like 3 of these. So you come in there and they would show you like a video, and a lot of the times it was with they actually had Walt like explaining animation processes and stuff, and it was pretty cool. So you'd watch a little short video, and then every day they would have one of the cast members come up there and like walk you through a Disney animation. So like you would get to draw different characters or like different scenes. So that was pretty cool. It was something that it's always cool to go and like do something entertaining, but you're actually learning stuff. So we really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really miss those classes being at Hollywood Studios. I know
Yeah.
they still do them at, I think, Art of Animation and maybe another resort or 2. But I always thought those were super cool. It like tricks you into thinking that you're an artist.
Mm-hmm. But like I said before, there was so much adult exclusive entertainment. Like a lot of the classes, the animation classes you go to were for adults only. A lot of the trivias you would go to were for adults only and everything. So it was definitely a lot to do for adults.
Did you go to any of the trivia?
Yes.
Was it extremely competitive?
Yes. So, and it was cool because there was a decent amount of Disney trivia ones set up. But they had stuff that wasn't Disney too. They did a ton of different, like they did different decades of music.
Cool.
They did movie trivia, and like not just Disney movie, just movie trivia, like general trivia. They had all kind of different themed trivia, so that was fun. They had a couple of different ones that were called Ultimate Disney Trivia. I was very surprised at how difficult they were. Some of the questions that they asked were like I don't feel how anybody could have any way of knowing, like if they weren't working at Disney company since its opening. Like it was insane how difficult some of it was, but all in all, it was a lot of fun. We did probably like 6 or 7 different trivias. We always have a lot of fun with that, so we try to go to a lot of those. Let's see, they had different like exercise classes you could go to for free and everything. We didn't take part in any of those.
Exercised on vacation?
Yeah. I went to the gym one time and I was like, why did I do that? And then I didn't.
That does not sound like a vacation.
No.
One of my favorite things that we did was they had what they called the Midship Detectives Agency. And this was a scavenger hunt that was kind of a mix between like Pirates League and Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom that they did on the boat. But it was really cool. You would go and you get a little card like you kind of do with Pirates League. And we give you different clues. But the thing that I really liked was that there were actually like 2 different storylines that you could do. We only did one of them, but they had one that was involving the Muppets, and obviously that's the one that I picked that we did. But it was really cool. So it's like you have to go to different areas of the ship, and at different places they have like the interactive art. And you go up there, you hold the card up, and you have to do different things. And basically you're trying to solve a mystery of who stole all these props from the Muppets. So like as you go to the different places, you like cross people off that you find out clues about, and it was actually like kind of challenging to do. So me and my wife had a lot of fun with it. It took probably like a little over an hour, I would say, to run through the whole thing, and that was with us moving pretty quick. If you really stretched out and just took your time, you could probably do it over a couple hours, or even if you want to do it over a couple of days as you did it, you could do that too. But it was really cool. The the little interactive elements with it were nice, and it also like brought you to areas of the ship where you would see like little subtle Muppets theming and stuff. So that was really neat too. Let's see, they had a number of like the game shows that they put on. One of the funny ones, they have silent disco. We didn't end up doing this. We kind of saw a little bit of it, but we didn't actually participate in it. But I don't know if you ever heard this. Apparently this is a thing I'd never heard of before. But what they do is they go and they have set up at one of the bars for the dance floors. You come in, they hand out headphones, and apparently they have it on like 3 different channels that you can tune into that's playing completely different music, and they're not playing any music over the stereos. So
silent disco.
Yes. So when you go in there, like you've got people just dancing to different beats because they've got headphones on playing different music, and everyone's just...
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but that is so cringy to me. Like I've seen it at festivals around town here, and I'm sure it's fun, but I do not have the self-confidence for that.
Oh yeah, we didn't do it. All of the cast members were like, even if you don't do it, you should come and just watch. But yeah, we didn't participate in that.
I'm looking at pictures of this because I didn't believe that this is a thing, and oh my gosh, it's a thing.
I mean, I'm sure it was like primo, like people watching though.
Oh yeah.
Now, none of our listeners want to do silent disco on the cruise ships.
Hey, we're gonna see these people again. If you want to do the silent disco, do silent disco.
Yeah. They had one event that was pretty fun. It was called Jack Jack's Incredible Diaper Dash, and it was basically just like a baby race where they set up lanes and people brought their babies that couldn't walk yet, and they had like a bracket set up to see which one could crawl across this track the fastest.
That was pretty fun.
Actually hilarious to watch, so highly recommend that. On top of that, you've got, usually cruise ships bring on like different variety acts, like comedians, jugglers, and stuff like that to come on. And I thought the ones on the Disney cruise were like really high quality. What they did each night was, or not each night, but 3 of the 4 nights, I believe, they had a different act come on, like a professional comedian. And they would do like a main show in the Walt Disney Theater, and then later that night they would do like an adults only show at one of the smaller bars and everything. So that was kind of cool because it was like if you went to both shows, you kind of got to see like a different side of the comedian, because they would do obviously like more adult themed stuff at the adults only one.
Did it get raunchy at all?
It didn't. It didn't really get like raunchy, I would say, to the level like of the ones that I saw on the Royal cruises, but like it was the adult themed entertainment. Like it was adult themed for sure at some points. Like there was language in it and stuff, and like sexual references at times too. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's surprising I don't know, because it being a Disney cruise, I don't know why, I just feel like that's very shocking but exciting.
It kind of was for me too. And I would say, so if you have a family, like realize that yes, it actually, some of the stuff on the cruise ship, if you go to the adults only thing, is adult themed. So there were multiple times where we would go to like whatever the variety act there was that night, and there would be like people with families sitting in there, and they would kind of get started up, and you'd see the families walk out after that. So it's like, I understand it is a Disney cruise ship, and like nothing was horrible. I would say there was nothing that like, if like an 8-year-old kid had gone to, he would have been scarred, and like his parents would have had to sit down and talk to him about, or anything like that. But it was occasionally adult themed. So
like PG-13 ish or higher.
Yeah, I would say like PG-13 ish, maybe a little worse than that at some points, but like nothing terrible. But you know, they say it's adult themed, it's adult themed. So, but probably the biggest thing of the entertainment, what I guess a lot of people are looking for when they go on the cruises, are the musicals that they put on, which are just absolutely top notch. And that's coming from somebody that is really not that interested in musicals. But these were just fantastic. They did 3 of the Broadway style ones throughout the ship. They did like 2 original ones. One was called Wishes, and I know that kind of hurt because I was like,
oh.
And then one called Believe, and then they did Aladdin. And I was surprised because I was really looking forward to Aladdin, and I still enjoyed it, but I actually think that I enjoyed the 2 other original storyline ones better than I did Aladdin. Mm-hmm. But they were, all 3 of them were just great. Again, the level that the musicians were at and the actors and actresses were in these musicals was just absolutely incredible. Like the singing was just top notch. Like some of the people, you know, like me and my wife would just like look over at each other and be like holy crap, like these people could probably be, you know, on Broadway or doing something like, you know, huge, just absolutely crazy talented. So I would say you know, that was like the big entertainment thing on the 3 nights that they held them. If you go on a Disney cruise, I would suggest do not miss the musicals. Like they did at least 2 showings each day so that you could do it around whenever your dining was. And then Aladdin, they actually did 3. They did a matinee. So you will have ample opportunity to see them. Do not miss them if you go on a Disney cruise.
Nice.
So, probably the most fun I think I had though was when they did Pirates Night on the cruise. So every night one night on every cruise that Disney, I think on every cruise Disney does, they do a themed night, and sometimes it's Marvel, sometimes it's Star Wars, but we had a Pirates themed one, which is really cool. So this was also one of our port days. So it really starts once you get back on the ship. But they have like a stage show where you go out to the main pool where the funnel vision thing is, and they put on a stage show and everything. But it's really cool, and I thought it was a nice touch that Disney did, was that it's like there's actually kind of a plot line to it, and it wasn't just like, hey, everybody's gonna dress up like pirates tonight. Okay, cool, everyone go with that. Like there was like a storyline, like the ship was trying to get taken over by Captain Hook, so like Mickey had to round up you and everyone else to like come fight Captain Hook and all the other pirates and everything. So it was really cool. It was like a way to get the audience involved and, you know, actually have a plot line to the theme and not just hey, dress like a pirate.
Aren't you glad that your wife did the research?
I am very glad. Yes. And
so real quick, do they tell you beforehand like what day it is and all that, or do they just say, hey, you have a Pirates day?
No. You know,
just hope for the best. You dress like a pirate every day, and one day you'll fit in.
No, so they tell you, you know, when it's on the the app and everything to tell you. And if you don't bring anything, like the right before it starts, your hostess will put they at least gave you a pirate bandana that you could wear if you didn't bring anything.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was. And like me and my wife, you know, dressed up for it and everything. But some of the people, like, holy crap, they went all out with this. Like I had like a pirate t-shirt on and like a bandana. And there were people in there with like full pirate garb, and I was like, "Oh wow, the cast members are really getting." Oh, that's not a cast member. I was like, wow. But yeah, it was really cool. Dinner that night is pirate themed and everything, and then all your servers dress up like pirates and everything. So that's really cool. they have a Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique on the boat, and on Pirates Night, it's all pirate themed. So you come and dress up. Even if if you forgot to bring pirate stuff, they sell plenty of pirate stuff that you can wear. But this is also when they do fireworks on the ship, which is just a really, really cool experience. So once everybody gets dressed up in the pirate garb, you come out and they do a second stage show at night. That's really fun, really interactive, like gets everyone to sing along. And then at the end of it, they do a fireworks show. And granted, like it is for Disney standards, it's a smaller fireworks display because you're on a boat, but it's incredible to be there on a cruise ship, like as you're moving, getting to see a fireworks show. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, that sounds pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So on ours, I guess to get into the actual kind of trip report real quick, the ports of call were Tortola, St. Thomas, and Castaway Cay. Tortola and St. Thomas are both Virgin Islands. Tortola is British Virgin Islands, and St. Thomas is U.S. Virgin Islands. I would say, obviously your experiences there would be unique to what you decided to do. Disney offers a lot of excursions. We didn't take part in any of those. We just kind of went to each island and explored and did different things like that, which was cool. It was fun. The people that we ate dinner with usually took advantage of the excursions, and they told us a lot about them and everything. And they were all, really impressed at the stuff that Disney put on too. But it was fun. We took it as kind of like an opportunity to, get off the beaten path a little bit at sometimes and just do different things and really, explore. So that was fun. So you can kind of experience each one of those as you like. But I'll say, like, I don't know if it has anything to do with Disney coming there or the ports they choose or anything, but like the places at Tortola and St. Thomas were like very, very well maintained when you got off. I've gone on cruises sometimes, and like some of the ports you get off of, like it seems kind of sketchy, and it's like you don't want, you want to stick to the main like touristy areas, and you don't want to get off of that. But for example, when we went to Tortola, like we rented a scooter and we just drove around the island and stuff, and like the whole island was just really, really nice. Like it was nice pretty much everywhere. So I thought that was really cool. But on the last night, we got to Castaway Cay, which is Disney's private island, and it is just it's fantastic. For comparison, the last Royal cruise I went on, I went to their private island, and I can't remember the name of theirs, but I don't know. It seemed like I don't know, like Royal didn't exactly plan things out very well like Disney did. For example, on the Royal cruise on their private island, they don't have a port on the island, so they actually drop anchor like half mile offshore, and then you have to get on a ferry that runs back and forth from the island to the boat, which is okay when you're going over there because people are kind of going over there at different times. But whenever it's time for everyone to go back to the ship, everyone's trying to go back to the ship, and the little ferry can't handle but a certain number of people at a time. It's like on the last trip that we went on, when it was time to go back, we ended up having to wait like over an hour just standing in line to get onto the ferry to take us back over to the boat, which really kind of sucked. Disney.
Yeah, that's the only cruise I've ever been on was Royal Caribbean, and as soon as you started talking about it, I was just like, "Oh yeah, that was really stupid to have to wait to go back to the boat."
Mm-hmm. But Castaway Cay, Disney has its own dock. They pull right up. They open up all the gangways, and you just go off, and it's awesome. Castaway Cay, I really, really enjoyed Tortola and St. Thomas. It's kind of like more adventurous things to do. And Castaway Cay was a lot of fun. And I think it was probably my favorite port that we did, even though it wasn't, it's not really a port of call because it's, it's Disney's island, but it was a lot of fun. Great theming. If you really want to look into it, there's like like hidden touches and storylines and everything behind all of it. But as far as the island itself, one thing was I was surprised at how big of an island was. Like it was way bigger than Royals Island, but it was also like so much of it was still like natural, like huge sections of the island were. So for example, like we rented bikes and it was cool. They had like a bike trail that you could go on around the island. And when you got like halfway through the trail, you would go up in this lookout tower and you could look out over the island and see back where the cruise ship was. And it's like so much of the island had not been built up yet. Like it was just like a natural island out in the middle of the Caribbean, which is really cool to see that like Disney hadn't made a huge impact on it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But as far as the island itself, like beautiful beaches, tons of like themed bars, slides and stuff you can go on. Another cool thing is like they have a tram that runs around the island. And honestly, like most of the island, it wasn't really that far to walk to, but it was nice that they had a tram that they ran around, so you didn't have to walk. The one place that you couldn't walk to though is they had an adults only beach, which was really cool too. Again, you know, as I've said multiple times, like this is not a cruise ship that is only catered to families or people with children. Like you could go as an adult by yourself, as a couple, whatever, and I think have a better time than on another cruise ship. But the adults only beach was like incredible. It had its own restaurant. The other thing too, when you get off at Castaway Cay, they provide you a free. It's like they do a cookout, and it's like really nice. It was some of the best food that I had on the whole cruise, and that's saying a lot because all the food was incredible. But it was like it had so much different stuff. Like you get grilled ribeye steaks, mahi mahi. It's like jerk chicken and stuff. Like all this different stuff, and again, all included. Another thing that like on Royal you had to pay for, which was really nice. But the beaches on Castaway Cay are just beautiful. There's a ton of different excursions I know you could do there, like parasailing. They have like a stingray encounter. You can rent jet skis, just tons of different stuff. But it was the last day of the trip, and like we used it as a really nice, just relaxing day to lay on the beach, and that was great. So yeah, that pretty much wrapped up the ports of call. Like I said, you know, it would really depend on what you decided to do at each one. So I didn't want to dive too much into that.
But they had a lot for you to do at each one, I'm assuming.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like, and you know, you could go through if you wanted to do excursions through Disney, and it's nice because you know you don't have to worry about planning your day out and making sure you get back to the ship on time and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, Disney's handling it, so it's all going to be planned out for you. So it's nice. You know, that being said, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But you know, it's just, it was very comparable to the type of prices you pay for excursions on Royal or Carnival or any other ship like that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then one last section before I really wrap things up with a final thing is I just made a couple of notes of just like little touches that Disney did, you know, that is like just they did better or that was nice to be on the cruise ship. One, the pillow or the chocolates that they leave you on the pillow, they're Ghirardelli chocolates. So like that's nice. This wasn't even a thing that I think that Disney did good. It was a thing that when I went on Royal, it really irked me, was that you had to check out towels at the pool on Royal. It's like they were so concerned that you were going to steal a towel or something. So you would have to like go up there, scan your card key, and then they'd give you a towel. And then when you were done with it, you had to come scan it back in. And it was like a $10 charge for every towel that you didn't check back in on Royal. Like on Disney, it's just like there's towels everywhere. Just like grab a towel, throw it in the bin when you're done with it. So that was
like nice. People don't go on cruises to steal towels.
I know, right? There's hey, look, I spent thousands of dollars on this cruise, but you know, I want to make up for it. I'll never have to buy towels again.
Right?
Well, I feel like Disney does similar things like that at the resorts too. Like when you go there and they have the racks of towels that you can just take and then throw back in the other bins.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is just like a thing that Disney just doesn't care about.
Guess not. Maybe they just got good prices on towels. They got a good towel supplier. But either way, that was one thing that I noticed. One of the biggest things though is that it's like the Disney community's on the boat, and it's cool because not to the point where it's like intrusive. And even I would say you could go on a Disney cruise like not being a Disney fan and still really enjoy it, because a lot of the Disney stuff was really subtle. But if you are a part of the Disney community, I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you are, like, it's really cool. So like one thing is a lot of people like decorate the doors to their staterooms, and they'll put like magnets and stuff on it and everything. And a lot of people would put out like a thing with pins, so like you could go by and just trade on their boards and stuff while you were there. So that was really cool.
That is really neat.
Wow, they're very trusting.
Yeah. So yeah, there's pin trading on the boat too. We were really excited because we had been working on a pin set for like 6 months and we could not find the last pin for it. And we finally found it when the cast members had it on the boat. And I was really glad that I brought my pins because we were finally able to complete that set. And then one night, like, they had a pin trading event too, where you could come, and they had a lot of cast members set up where you could trade, but you could also trade with other people too. So obviously being a pin trader like that was a really, really nice thing for them to have. And then I guess just a random thing, the donuts at the buffet are Krispy Kreme donuts. So that's
yum.
The other cool thing is, like, they don't even advertise that. Like, my wife just happened to notice. She was like, I went by and they were like restocking the donuts, and they were like pulling all of them out of Krispy Kreme boxes. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So
cool. What a thing to realize.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, it sounds like you had a blast, and I'm super jealous.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, it was great. So I guess the last thing is, like, the elephant in the room when it comes to doing a Disney cruise compared to another cruise is the price and whether or not it's worth it. So I'll say, from what we were looking at and comparing it to doing something else, you're probably going to spend roughly like at least 50% more on a Disney cruise, and that's probably a low estimate. From most of the stuff we were looking at, Disney's probably gonna be twice as much as a comparable like Royal or Carnival cruise, which is steep. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's it's kind of hard to swallow if you're just looking at prices. But I'll say that Disney went above and beyond on so much stuff, and it was so great to have, like, the level of service that you get from Disney that was even, like, any cruise ship you go on, if you've never been on one, like, you get incredible levels of service. Like, any of the Royal ones, I would say you got Disney level service on a Royal cruise, but like Disney Cruises went even a step above that, and it was just really great. Everybody's super friendly, super helpful, and everything, just very interactive. The entertainment crew that put on all the shows and the trivias and all of that kind of stuff were just, they really, really made it special. And it was just, it was great. So I would say that for most people, if you're a Disney fan and you are planning this as a big vacation, like going on a cruise is your big vacation, it's worth it by far, like, no questions asked. I think even if you're not really a big Disney fan, the level of service, the food that you're getting, I thought the dining was well above it, and the level of entertainment that you get on the boat is still going to be worth the price. Being so close to Port Canaveral, I know, again, I'm kind of in like an interesting like area that not a lot of people like, or they're not going to experience this like I do, but being so close is like, a lot of times, the cruise is like the kind of like just the cheap. Oh, okay, maybe we can like, in a month or two we can plan to go for a weekend trip on a cruise or something like that. And for that, like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do a Disney cruise because of the cost. And if you just want to go on like a booze cruise or something for a couple days, or you're really more concerned about like getting to the ports of call and doing that kind of stuff, then maybe the Disney cruise isn't worth the price. But for me, I really enjoy the days on the boat and all the entertainment options, and just Disney did such a good job at it. So I think far and above, it's worth the extra cost to do a Disney cruise. And we had an absolutely incredible time. And any Disney fans listening to this, I would say, if you're planning a trip to the parks, hey, love the parks, definitely. But if you're the kind of family that gets to go to the parks a lot and you do that relatively often, look into doing a cruise. It's a different experience. You still get the majority of the Disney magic, but it's unique. So look into it. So
we've lost Brian to the cruise life. That's what he's saying.
Definitely not lost. It's different. But it's great. I will definitely love going to the parks, and obviously because being a local, going to the parks is a lot cheaper than me going on a Disney cruise. I will still be spending most of my time in the parks, but yeah, we were already, like, as we were heading home, talking about like when we could plan our next one. So
nice. That's great. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite thing that you did? I have to know if there's something that like you got off the cruise and you're like, man, I can't believe we did that.
Oh man, like I said, the shows, I was, I expected the entertainment to be good, and everyone had talked about how great the stage shows were, but I have never really been a big musical fan, so I wasn't, didn't have that high of expectations for it. But I was blown away with how good they were. And even the ones, like, they would give you a quick synopsis of the plots of some of the original shows, and like reading some of them, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so cringy. And then going to them, I was like, wow, that was incredible. So I would say definitely check them out, even if you don't like musicals.
Nice. So did you have any questions for Brian about his trip, Beth?
I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah, I think I am too. I don't know. I may have to start looking into it. So let me propose something to you guys real quick while we're talking about this. We're at, for this episode so far, an hour and 17 minutes.
I talked a lot.
No, I'm glad that you had so much detail.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that people have wanted to hear. So what do you say we wrap this week up, and then after we're done this, just quickly do the bracket and the listener feedback that we've got as a short episode, and I'll put that out while I'm away so we don't miss a week.
Cool.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. So we'll see you guys next time. I know I promised a lot for this episode. I don't think we really planned to have that much to talk about, but we are going to wrap up the bracket next week. I will be away in Walt Disney World, and this is going to be a pre-recorded episode, so this is going to be us not missing a week. Woo. Woo-hoo! All right. I'll record the outro for that one later. Let me just stop, and then we can just start it again. So I think if we're doing it this way, we could probably finish the whole bracket, and then I'll just count it up, and then on the second we can pick a winner.
Sounds good.
Cool.
I'm exporting my MP.
Yeah.
Let me just... Cool. I'm so jealous of your cruise now. Like, just hearing you talk about it, I was like, oh man, I gotta book one.
It was great. So man, yeah, a couple of things I didn't want to talk about on the air. Yeah, those $7 Long Island iced teas Whew, man, yeah, I hit those hard. That was I was getting some of the other drinks, and I was, they were like $8, and I was like, oh, that's a good price. And then one day I was like, oh, I want a Long Island, and I got the bill, and it was like $7. And I was like, $7? Like, holy shit, there's more alcohol in this than any of these other drinks, and it's the cheapest. I was like, yeah, keep those coming. So
Keep those coming.
yeah, that was
Did
nice.
you get pretty litty, Brian?
Yeah, one night I got pretty drunk. The other thing was one of the guys that we ate dinner with. It was him and his girlfriend, and they both worked at Disneyland. He was an engineer, and he did. I think he said he did analysis on like environmental stuff, like the environmental impact and stuff at Disneyland, which is kind of cool.
Oh,
And then
wow.
and his girlfriend worked in guest services at the Grand Californian, so it was really cool, like getting to talk to him, and like obviously like they were big Disney fans and everything. So we ended up actually hanging out with them a good bit and like going to some of the trivias and that kind of stuff. But it was pretty cool because he had a lot of interesting knowledge to drop on me. I think two things he told. One was that the fireworks that Disney uses, like the shells, are biodegradable, and that's why they're the only ones that are allowed to do fireworks at sea, is because they have a patent on this biodegradable fireworks shell, so that when the things launch off, they just they degrade.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, he had a bit of trivia, and I want to see how close you guys are on this. Take a stab at what the gross profit, how much money does one churro stand at Disneyland make a year?
Oh gosh.
A year?
Yeah, how many dollars worth of churros do they sell in a year?
Oh, it's up there. I know it's like millions.
Yeah. One churro stand, each one sells $5 million
What?
every year. So
that is a large number, but it doesn't surprise me.
I always wondered.
But how many stands are there?
I know. Can you think, like, I always wondered, seeing some of the smaller stands at Disney World and just being like, I wonder how much they sell. Like, is it worth it for them to keep this open? And then he told me that, and I was like, holy shit. Like, why? I can't believe they don't have more of them if they're selling that many.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that was cool. Let me see. My audio is still exporting, so I'll tell y'all. So we when we got off at Tortola, we were looking around, and we did so very little planning, like going to any of the ports of call, and the only thing that my wife really wanted to do when we got to Tortola was there was this nature hike on this trail. And she looked it up, and Disney was actually running an excursion that you could do, and they would take you up there in like a taxi, and they take you on like a little, guided nature walk around this tour, and then they went up this little lookout tower and everything, and they take you back down to the beach, and you went, back to the ship. Anyways, I was like, well, I don't know, like, why don't we just go do that ourselves instead of doing it? And she's like, okay. And like, I still wasn't really like into doing this because like we used to like hike and like backpack a lot and stuff when we still lived in Georgia, and like did some like pretty serious trails sometime too. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like this is gonna be really lame because they make it where it like if any tourist can go on this thing and just do it, like it's probably gonna be like really, really, really easy, and it was not. But anyways, so the original plan was when we got out there, we were going to take a taxi up there and just go to the park and do the hike ourselves, and then whatever after that. So I got there, and I was like, okay, we can do the taxi. I was like, oh, look, they have scooter rentals. I was like, hey, let's rent a scooter. And then we can just like drive around the island and like do whatever we want and then drive up to the thing ourselves and do that. And so she was like very, very apprehensive. And she was like, I don't know about this. I was like, no, come on, let's do it. So she was like, oh, okay. And so anyways, we got there, we rented the scooter, and it was like there was nothing. It's like, okay, sign this piece of paper, just give us, your little ship ID, and like, here you go. And she's like, have you ever driven a scooter before? I was like, well, yeah, I have one. She's like, okay, you're good then. And she was like, oh, by the way, we drive on the left side of the road here. I was like, oh, okay. And that was kind of sort of true, but not really. Like, I guess you're supposed to drive on the left side of the road there, but everybody there like drives wherever the hell they want to and like will go around you and stuff. But anyways, so we went on the scooter and we drove around the island a little bit, and it was fun. Like, we mainly just like stuck to the shore and everything, so it was all really flat. But I don't know if you've ever seen Tortola, but it's like extremely mountainous, like very, very steep. So anyways, we were like, she's like, all right, well, let's go to the park. I was like, okay. So we like start going up these mountains, and there's all these like crazy narrow little like switchbacks and everything going up there. And at first, like, there's all these tour groups, so they'll just like stop in the middle of the road and like tell you to go around them and stuff. And then it's like you have to like fly around them because there's cars coming, and like there's all these like you can barely see because of how thin the roads are and winding and everything. So we would like go around them, but as we started getting like further up the mountain, like the tour groups would tell us to go around them, but like this little scooter was like not handling these hills. And so like the thing would run probably like 55 or 60 like when it was flat, but we got to parts when we were going up the hills where it was like 10 miles an hour. I was like full throttle, like giving it all it had, and it could barely make it up these mountains. So that was interesting. Anyways, we got kind of lost and didn't really make it to the park on the scooter. So I was like, all right, screw it. We'll just drive back down and take a taxi up. So we did that, take the scooter back in, took the taxi up. Take the taxi up there, and we get to the like park, and there all it is like a little restaurant, a shop, and that's where you start the trail. So our taxi driver was like, he's like, do you want me to come pick you back up, or you just want to walk back down to the port? And I was like, oh, you can walk back down? I was like, we'll just walk. He goes, okay, go talk to the guy that runs the place in there, and he'll give you a map and everything. So we go in there and talk to him, gives us a map, and we start off the hike and everything. And like I said, the hike was like way, way, way harder than we thought it was going to be. But anyway, so like we ended up wrapping up the hike. And at this point, it's like 2 hours until we're supposed to be back on the boat. And we are like 5 miles from the port at this point through the mountain.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, I know it's a long story, but we get back to the place, and we talked to the guy, and I was like, hey, it was good. We had a lot of fun and everything. And I'm like, all right, so I guess we're out here. Thanks and everything. He's like, oh, where are you going? And I was like, well, we're heading back down the port. He's like, is your taxi here? He's like, I didn't see a taxi out there. And I was like, oh, no, we don't have a taxi. The guy told us that like we could just hike back down. He's like, you ain't gonna make it like in time. I was like, what? Shit.
Oh no.
Like, and this was our first stop too, and I was like, holy shit, we are gonna be those people. But I was like, okay. And he's like, well, I can call you a taxi if you want. And I was like, oh, that'd be great. He's like, you're probably gonna be out of luck though. I was like, wait, what do you mean we're gonna be out of luck? He's like, there's 2 ships today, and he's like, there's really not that many taxi services on the island. They're probably all booked up. I was like, okay, well, can you please try? And so he called like a couple different ones, and he came back in there, and he's like, man, I'm sorry, like there is no one available. And I was like at this point, I'm like starting to freak out. I'm like, holy shit! I was like, we better start jogging now. But
oh my god!
So he's like,
5 miles.
Yeah. So he was like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, there's 2 other people out there that are waiting on a taxi. You can go talk to them and see if maybe you get in there. So I went up to these people. I was like, dude, look. You got a taxi going back, and like he was on a different ship and everything, and like I don't know when they were supposed to be back. And he was like, it's like I don't know, man. He's like, I'm not sure if they have room depending on the car they bring. Is like when the driver gets here, like you can ask him. And I was like, oh my god. It's like we're sitting there, and I'm like freaking out because like I have to wait until this taxi gets here. But like I'm like, well, what if I'm just wasting time because if they show up in a sedan or something, they're not going to be able to take us back.
Oh my
Anyways,
God.
they show up.
I'm stressed just hearing this
no.
story.
So they showed up and there was a van, and I ran up to the dude and I was like, man, and the whole thing was like, everyone was like prepaying for round trips for them to take you up there and take them back. So I ran up to the dude and was like, dude, I was like, dude, I'm fucking sorry. I didn't pay. I didn't pay for this. Can you please like take me back to the port? And he's like, you want me to take you back to the port without paying? And I'm like, no, I'll pay you now. And I'm like, I don't care how much it costs. Like, can you get me back to the port? He's like, oh yeah, man, that's no problem. Just hop in. I was like, oh my God, thank God. So like we went, and it was the most stressed I've ever been. So yeah,
I'm stressed out just imagining it.
yeah.
I will have you know that I am like very close to not being 100% packed for this trip that we leave for on Wednesday, and I have like so much to do between then. I was more stressed listening to your story than I am about all of that.
No, but it's just like everything like kind of started getting further and further out of hand because like the scooter, we didn't end up making it up there on the scooter, so we had to come back and take the taxi, so that took extra time. And like at a certain point, like I was kind of ready to skip it because I was worried it was going to push us close. Because I'm like the kind of person, I'm like, look, I want to be back on the boat 2 hours before it's supposed to leave. Like we can hang out at the port and do the shopping and that kind of stuff if you want, but like I want to be where I can get back on the boat like 2 hours ahead of time just in case. And I felt bad because like we took up doing all that extra time because the scooter thing was my idea, and like Jordan really, really, really wanted to do the nature hike. And I was like, well, I don't like, that was the one thing she wanted to do. I was like, we got to do it. So it ended up like taking more time to get up there. And then all that fiasco with taxi driver telling us we could hike down and everything. So anyway.
Yeah, like he should not have told you that.
But it was like, he said that like it was a viable option. It was just like, do you want me to come pick you back up or you just want to hike down? And I was like, oh, I'll just hike down. And then as soon as like the bartender there was like, there is no way you're gonna be able to hike down. So it's like, Jesus. So the next day, like we took a much, much more relaxing day at St. Thomas.
I will bet after that one, I would not want to do anything.
Yeah, no, that was the most stressed I've ever been.
Man, I can't even imagine.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that sucks.
But we made it back, so.
And you didn't hold up the cruise ship for anything, so that's good.
No.
Stop.
Oh, I don't know. I've been on other ones where people were left.
Really?
Oh my God.
Like running down the pier, like very like out of a movie scene.
Oh my God.
That freaks me out. No.
Yeah.
The one thing too was like it would suck anywhere, obviously, but we found out like St. Thomas, like they have an airport and it's a U.S. Virgin Islands, so like you could fly. And even actually like one of the tables next to us, apparently like their flight to Orlando got delayed. They ended up missing like the first leg of the cruise ship. They flew to St. Thomas and got on the boat and just like did the last half of the cruise. But
really? Oh.
Yeah. But Tortola has like nothing. Like it's a really small island. It has no airports. The only way to get there is by boat. Like they have to ferry to St. Thomas if they want to fly anywhere. So I was like, if we get stuck on Tortola, like we are epically screwed because we don't even have like a quick way to get out of here. So. And on top of that, like neither me or my wife have a passport. So I was like, that would probably just completely not work. And then we didn't even have any of our documents with us, like, because we left them on the boat. So I was like, yeah, that would have been just absolutely terrible.
You don't have to have a passport?
You do not have to have a passport. Actually, I've noticed a lot, like with cruises, almost anywhere in the Caribbean, and even Cozumel, you don't have to have a passport. You can bring a birth certificate and a photo ID, and it'll get you off.
That's crazy. I feel like I had to have a passport to go to the Bahamas.
It might be certain areas in the Bahamas. So, like, I know, obviously, like the Virgin Islands, you don't have to have it. Some of the other, like, non-U.S. or British territories, I guess maybe you might have to. But yeah, but I know Cozumel, you don't have to. Yep. Interesting.
I didn't know that. I would have thought you would have needed a passport.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You like have to bring your passport onto the ship, but you only have to have like your photo ID and your key card to get off of the boat. So if you do get stuck, you're stuck there with only your photo ID and a card that any official doesn't give a shit about. So
Yeah. That's wild.
yeah, so if you do a cruise, just plan better than we did the first day.
Well, that sounds infinitely more stressful than my cruise, although I did spend an entire day of it hungover
Oh,
after throwing up in front of my stepmom's entire family. So that was cool.
oh boy.
Alrighty, well, we ready to record this?
Round 2.
Let's do it.
All right. You're listening to the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Beth?
And Brian.
So if you listened to last week's, you know this week is a little bit of a off episode. We're doing a continuation kind of what we were planning on talking about last week. So as a result, there is no news this week. It's because I'm away. Just a lot of shakeup going on these last couple weeks with everything that happened here. So we're trying to get these episodes out so we don't miss anything. And here we are finishing up our March Magic bracket and doing some listener feedback question discussion that we had saved up. So that said, are you guys ready to dive into the hard choices that we're about to have to make here?
Yeah, I guess.
I know you just came back and you're probably like, this is the furthest thing from your mind right now. You're probably put this way out, and I don't want to think about this, but I guess we have to. So yeah, let's dive into some of these brackets here. First up, we've got Muppet Vision 3D versus Mission Space. This is an easy one for me, guys. I gotta go Muppet Vision.
Yeah, Muppet
Me
Vision.
too.
Oh wow, there's G-forces, Beth. That was your...
I mean, yeah, but those Muppets, though.
Oh,
I'm kind of surprised Muppet Vision's still in it, but at the same time I'm not, because I think I've probably voted for it every time. So.
let's take a look back and see what Muppet Vision has beaten out. It's got Mission Space from this last round. It did Festival of the Lion King. I mean, round 3 it was against Enchanted Tiki Room. That was a tough one. And then Turtle Talk with Crush. So Muppet
Not
Vision.
a tough one.
I don't know. Enchanted Tiki
Not
Room.
for me. Well, not. I was saying Turtle Talk.
Oh
versus
yeah.
Muppet Vision.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Muppet Vision had some tough ones it went up against, so I'm happy it's here, but we'll see how it fares in the next couple rounds. Next one we've got is Living with the Land versus Finding Nemo the Musical.
Mm,
Are you both going Living with the Land? Because
yeah,
Oh yeah,
I am.
I'm going to go Finding Nemo the Musical just to give it that odd vote, but not that it matters, because Living with the Land is moving on to the next round.
See, I love Finding Nemo the Musical, but it's not particularly unique. And Living with Land is one of the most unique attractions at Disney, so that's why this one's easy for me.
That's fair, and I totally think I agree with that. There's not another attraction that's like Living with the Land, so I can see why you would say it. Oh boy. All right, this is the one it's gonna be so hard for us. Haunted Mansion versus Tower of Terror.
Oh, it's not hard, but it's sad.
That's it. The choice is obvious, but it still pains me to kick Tower of Terror out.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, same. I thought that was gonna be a lot harder than it was. Kilimanjaro Safari versus Pirates of the Caribbean.
Now this is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
Not for me. I gotta go Pirates.
I am seriously, legitimately having to sit here and think about this. This is so vastly different, but
I'm gonna say Safari.
Oh, she's making you choose.
oh boy. I mean, I, it's so hard. I have to go Pirates. I love both of these, and I love Kilimanjaro is Animal Kingdom to me, but I don't know. Pirates was just so inspirational, and
It is iconic.
it is. It's to me, it's the most iconic Disney ride. Might not be my absolute favorite, but it's definitely up there, and it's too iconic not to vote past Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I've talked about my love for Pirates on this podcast enough. It's hard to say that a lot of attractions can pass this. Kilimanjaro Safari is definitely one that I did not want to see it up against because that is a hard decision. Like you said, that is Animal Kingdom, but there's just so much about Pirates to love that I can't not cast my vote for it.
I would have absolutely guessed two of these attractions being in the semifinals. The other two, I'm pretty surprised about.
I like how this bracket shaped out too, because you have the one side of the semifinals that is like the underdog pick with Muppet Vision 3D and Living with the Land, and then the other side, it's like top contenders, with Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion.
Not somebody, multiple people have been have immediately turned this podcast off because we just said into the semifinals out of every attraction at Disney World.
All right, so here's the funny thing about this. The one thing I have to say that I really like about how this shook up is because everything was at random, we had some of the best matchups, and things just made it a lot farther than they should have. Like Wilderness Explorers in round 4.
Yeah.
That was one I would not have seen coming.
That's a good point. So, anybody listening out there, I don't think any of us are saying that, Muppet Vision is in the top 4 of attractions at Disney World, but yeah, it got some pretty easy competition.
And if you're going to go that far, I mean, a lot of our listeners, judging by the brackets that they sent in, Flight of Passage was in the final round, if not the winner. And Flight of Passage got voted out in round 4 for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's surprising for you guys too.
Okay, it went up against Pirates though, so I mean that's understandable, right? I feel like any real Disney fan, that's understandable at least to them.
Oh, I think so. Now, are there any of these that you're surprised went out earlier in the bracket before we start talking about our semifinal final stuff? Seven Doors Mine Train went out pretty early, and I'm pretty surprised about that.
I don't know. I'm not surprised because I know us on this podcast, and I know our feelings about it. I feel like if you put this out for everybody in the Disney community to vote on, obviously Seven Dwarfs makes it a lot further, but I don't think any of us are particularly fond of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's definitely 100% true. Country Bears only made it 2 rounds. I mean, it passed 1 round and then got destroyed by Living with the Land the next round.
It had a bye in the first round there, right? It was.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Because the first round was actually it was up against Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom in its first round, and then it went up against Living with the Land and lost 3-0. I don't know. I mean, a lot of these make sense, and it's funny that I'm looking at this now, and I kind of wish some things shook out a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very happy with how the semifinals bracket ended up.
I'm just looking back to I love that we all voted Tiki Room over Soarin'. That makes me happy.
Well, we decided it was New Soarin', and that was not a hard decision.
That immediately drove the nail into the coffin.
Yeah, it might have stood more of a chance with Old Soarin', but I think I still probably would have gone with Tiki Room.
Yeah. I Who voted for Beauty and the Beast live on stage?
Probably me because
I know it wasn't me.
I have a really funny personal memory, so it was 100% nostalgia based vote there.
I'm trying to find it. What did it go up against?
It's a Small World.
Oh, well, I might have voted for
I was about to say, honestly, I probably would have voted for almost anything over Small World. I can't handle it.
Small World was 2-1 against Beauty and the Beast live on stage. So
it's definitely
I was definitely probably Beth.
Yeah. I just don't like feeling like I'm slowly going insane, and that's how I feel on Small World.
Yeah, that's fair. I would have liked to see some more odd picks make it further. I mean, I'm happy with the ones that did, like Wilderness Explorers. That was a good one that made it 3 rounds. I was surprised Mission Space made it as far as it did, but I guess that also had a good stack up against it. But yeah, for the most part, I'm very happy with how this shook out. And I guess we should decide our semifinal winners and then our finalist. Do we want to do the sleeper pick first or the top contenders first?
Let's do the underdogs.
All right, so we got Muppet Vision versus Living with the Land.
This sucks.
Yeah. I love Muppet Vision, but I think when we did our top 5 picks way back when, I'm almost positive I had Living with the Land in my top 5, and I definitely still stand by that. I love Living with the Land, so it's the winner for me.
Same here. I really love Living with the Land. I love Muppet Vision, but I'm a nature nerd.
I am sad to say it, because I have definitely said how much I love Muppet Vision on this podcast, and I truly do not want to see it go, but I have to say Living with the Land too.
I don't, as often as I go, I don't have very many every time attractions, but the Haunted Mansion at Magic Kingdom is for me, and Living with the Land at Epcot is an every time attraction for me.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Nice segue.
So this next one, Haunted Mansion versus Pirates, I think that's an easy enough one for us to decide too, because in our bios on our website, everyone mentions the Haunted Mansion at least once. So
Haunted Mansion for life.
Yeah.
All 3?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh boy. You know what?
We should have not let Haunted Mansion in, honestly, because I feel like this was just bound to happen.
Yeah. I think it would have been fun. Because we knew that we were all gonna vote Haunted Mansion to the end. I think it would have been kind of cool because that would have put Tower of Terror and Pirates against each other, which would have been a very interesting pick.
Yeah,
I also think
I would put Splash Mountain and Tower of Terror against each other too, so that's another cool one. So it's man, yeah, that would have shaken things up.
Maybe next year we should pull the Haunted Mansion out of this bracket, but I still think I'm happy with where this landed, because this bracket is very telling of this podcast. We very much gush about both of these attractions, probably a lot more than we should. So,
speak for yourself.
So I'm gonna say that it's time to decide the winner. And
are we deciding, or are we just announcing?
I don't know. I don't know.
Before we started this thing.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a vote that they want to cast that is aside from the one that I just said?
Nah.
No. I love both of these. Both of them are in my top 5 of Disney attractions, but Haunted Mansion will forever and always have a special place, and I think just stand above the rest.
Agree.
Yeah. All right. So to no surprise to anyone,
no one's surprised.
The Haunted Mansion is the winner of this bracket.
People listening to us starting this bracket are like, well, I don't even need to know how this ends.
It's funny, like a lot of people really enjoyed this contest, so I'm surprised no one called me out on that at first. Like, thinking back on it now, just putting the Haunted Mansion in was probably a bad idea, like you said. But
we learned a lesson.
We learned a lesson the hard way.
Maybe, I think would be really interesting for a next time type of thing is that we each put in like our top 3 and we have to take those out completely.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then we have to really think about our decisions.
So I want to tell you, I'm looking at this now, and I'm going back through it, and it looks like no one predicted that Mission Space was going to make it in that round.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like no one predicted that outcome at all. They thought Jungle Cruise was going to make it a lot farther than it did. So that's a sad, unfortunate mishap from this bracket.
Had the apps, I think the easiest matchups in this up until it had to go up against Muppet Vision.
But I will say that everyone on our, well, not everyone, probably about 75% of the people that listen to this podcast and filled out the bracket for me put Haunted Mansion as the winner, so I feel less bad about that.
So we are pretty predictable then.
We are, but a lot of them also thought that Flight of Passage would make it to the end.
Hey, I tried, guys. I tried.
A few people thought Pirates was going to make it there, which that's a fair assumption, I guess. But looking back, it looks like for the most part, our listeners seem to know us, at least up until the Jungle Cruise line, where that's, I mean, we love Jungle Cruise here, but it is not warranting enough of the votes that people cast for it. So I guess before we wrap up this week's a little bit shorter episode, we have some listener discussion we wanted to talk about. I know we have a tendency to let some of the emails sit in the bag for a while and then like spit out 1 or 2 at a time. These are 2 that I know have been sitting in there for a little bit, so I want to apologize first of all for letting them sit. But we can talk about some of this stuff while we're here. One was from listener April. She had sent us an email that we had responded to earlier about doing a Disney destination for her birthday, and she wanted to come back to us and ask a question about Premier passports and some of the other things that she may have had options for. For our listeners at home, her initial plan was to do Disneyland for a couple days and just kind of get a feel for what's out there and everything. She had said it was too expensive, but she almost feels like getting the Premier passport was worth it, and then not having to decide about the cost if she goes about 3 or 4 times. She wanted to know if we think that's worth it, and she also had a follow-up question to Brian that is totally unrelated and wants to know what the best time of day is to go to Sanaa, assuming that you get to see the animals there. So
I guess I'll touch on that first really quick. Yeah, I think you can see better at lunch. Let me say you have a better chance of seeing the animals. Like if it is at night and they happen to come up close, there's plenty of light out there that you will be able to see them. But yeah, either way, I would recommend going at lunch. One, it's a good bit cheaper to go at lunch, and it's still really good food. But yeah, also you'll probably have a better chance to see the animals. So
I like that answer. Do we know anything? Oh, okay. I just found the price on the Premier passport. So to her other question, for those people that don't know about the Premier passport, it's a mission to Walt Disney World, Florida, and Disneyland Resort in California with no blackout dates. This is like the annual pass for both coasts. That includes all 4 Walt Disney World parks, the water parks, Wide World of Sports Complex, and Oak Trail Golf Course, along with Disneyland and California Adventure. Gives you the photo pass option that's included in your annual pass, and Disney Max Pass for Disneyland. So all that stuff for $1,949 plus tax is it worth it if you go 3 or 4 times a year?
Is that if she's saying 3 or 4 times, like I guess it depends on how long you're going each time, like how many actual days you're spending in the park, and how many of those are at Disneyland instead of Disney World. But overall, I haven't really looked into it, and I guess I would have thought the pass would be more than that. That really doesn't seem like that bad of a deal if you plan on doing like a week-long vacation in each coast.
So her initial email was 3 days at Disneyland. So let's go under the assumption that she's going to do 4 3-day trips. So that's 12 days.
Is she saying at each 3 or 4 trips, or 3 or 4 trips total split between the two?
Probably split between the two, because it says I almost feel that getting the Premier Pass is worth it. Then I don't have to worry about the cost if I decide to go 3 or 4 times.
Then I would say, well, if she already has a Disney World annual pass, then I believe you can just upgrade those. That seems like that would definitely be cheaper.
And I think the other thing that we had determined at one point is that the cutoff for like how many days it's worth it to upgrade to an annual pass is roughly around like 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you're doing like Disneyland and Disney World, it's probably worth it.
Honestly, I don't think it has as much to do with how many days you're spending in the parks, more so having to do with how much you're taking advantage of the discounts. Because while I feel like that is a huge chunk of it, like my annual pass being like the, I don't know, platinum pass at Disney World, I don't know, it was like 800 and change for a renewal, I believe. And that pays it for itself in like a couple of long weekends if I'm using the discounts pretty heavily for merchandise, and not to mention the parking costs. So I think that she could definitely make it worth it.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I am vaguely aware of, obviously I haven't really done Disneyland in depth. Max Pass, so that's $15. Do you know how that works, Beth? Like, did you look into that at all?
Yes, we used it and it was absolutely amazing. I wish that our Fast Pass system was more like that, honestly, because basically the way that it works is that you can book a Fast Pass. I think it depends. The time slot varies. I can't remember what the algorithm is, but it's basically like every 1 to 3 hours or something. You can book one, even if you already have outstanding ones. And I think as soon as you use one, you can book another one, if I'm not mistaken. So we got tons more Fast Passes at Disneyland than we would have at Disney World, just based on the differences in the two systems. So I think it is extremely worth the extra cost, or in this case, it would be included, which is even better.
So it's like a rolling Fast Pass. So like you get one as you use one.
So if I remember correctly, the way that it works is that you have to be in the park. Like you can't make it in advance. Like you have to be within a certain vicinity. So like when we were at California Adventure, we were making Fast Passes at Disneyland, but you couldn't do it if you were like, 3 miles away or something. So it's not like our system where you can make it from anywhere in the world. And then if I remember correctly, it was you make the reservation for a Fast Pass, and then it tells you can make another at this time. And I think it is based on like 3-hour windows, like 3-hour periods throughout the day somehow. Like I said, I can't remember how exactly the algorithm worked, but like, let's say I have a Fast Pass that I booked at, and it's, I don't know, 9:30 in the morning. It'll say like, here's the time you can book the next one. And even if my Fast Pass that I booked at 9:30 in the morning was for like 8 o'clock in the evening, I can still book as many times as it will allow, if that makes sense. Like, at that time period, I can book another one regardless of how many outstanding ones I have. Does that make
Oh.
kind of sense?
Mhm.
Kind of. That's an
It's really
interesting
hard to
system.
explain. It took me a second to kind of get the hang of it, but like I was standing in line for stuff making fast passes. Like I would set a timer or like an alarm on my phone. Like this is the time it said I could make another one. And so there was a point that I had probably 3 fast passes like stacked up, and then I was still able to keep making more even though I hadn't used those yet.
Huh, that's interesting, and I kind of think I agree with you, but I also see how our system would not work with that.
Right. I think I wish that our system was more like that, not in necessarily a sense where you have to pay for it, but the fact that I don't know, I don't like the whole here you have this 1 hour window and you can't book anything until after that, and then you can't book a rolling one until you've used the other 3. So if you book a Phantasmic fast pass, you're pretty much screwed for the day. Like I don't like how that works, and that's not how it worked at Disneyland, so I appreciated that.
Yeah. So I think adding that in is a nice little perk for Disneyland APs too.
Oh, for sure.
And if they get that, I mean, especially if they get it for the Premier Passport, that's definitely a nice added bonus. And then you get all the parking perks and all that stuff. So that's really cool. I guess maybe we should talk about the benefits too, because the list that I'm looking at has all of those as well, like the discounts and stuff. I think this is standard for AP, but I'm not AP, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. You save up to 20% on select dining, 20% off on select merchandise, 15% off at sports, recreation, and spa locations. It says special events and entertainment. Watch for offers on select event tickets at Walt Disney World. I don't know what that means. Save up
Say
to
that again?
It says special entertainment or special events and entertainment. Watch for offers on select event tickets at Walt Disney World Resort.
Oh yeah, so like discounts for like Not So Scary and Very Merry, but it's only on certain days.
That makes sense. Yeah, I did know that. You also save up to 15% on select guided tours at Walt Disney World, and that looks like it appears to be it for that. Dining at Disneyland, you save 15% on select restaurants. Merchandise 20% off, or save up to 20% off on select merchandise, and then the same thing with the ticketed events. So I think for all of that, like you said, the perks definitely help cushion the cost of that AP. And if you're doing it, I think 3 or 4 times, that's definitely probably worth it for that price.
Yeah, especially if you're taking, like you said, long 3 or 4 time trips.
Yeah. So last email that we have in here is a follow-up from an email that we've kind of been updating along the way. So a while back, I'm sure most of our listeners will remember, Sam and Charlie emailed us when we were talking about Disney animated movies. They told us about a quest that they were on to watch every Disney animated movie in order, including movies that were animated by Disney Studios and their subsidiaries, companies that Disney owns but aren't necessarily released as like Disney movies. That's a lot of movies, and they emailed us on February 15th to say they finished everything. They have finally watched it all in order. They have completed their quest, and we had to put out another call to action to them to ask what their top 5, bottom 5 were, and like if there was anything that held up. So Sam emailed us back and said that they heard the show. They wanted to finally tell us what they had agreed on their top 5 and bottom 5 films. And I think this is pretty interesting. I'm a little surprised by some of these. The bottom, not so much, but the top, it's not an order I would have thought.
Me either, but I also haven't sat down and watched them all in order, so maybe that plays into it.
It might, maybe. So Sam says, in no particular order, Fox and the Hound, Robin Hood, Lilo and Stitch, Little Mermaid, Moana, and a special mention goes to Lady and Tramp. He says, as that's me and Charlie. I'm assuming that's probably one of their favorite movies. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting list. There's a lot of like earlier dark period animated films in there.
I feel like it's very biased, just because of when I grew up. But, I feel like my top 5 would all be like Renaissance era.
So I guess now is a good time to tell you about this thing that I don't know. Well, if this is coming out while I'm away, it's not going to come out around the same time. Someone I follow on Twitter actually reached out to me about a like segment of their podcast that they're doing. Well, okay, so she put out a tweet saying that she needed guests on this podcast segment that she was doing, and I was like, sure, why not? Like, I've got some free time. So Cassie at Disflix and Tidbits is doing a segment called Once I Watched a Disney, where she talks to people that are in like the Disney community or like Disney movies, and they talk about a movie that they haven't seen in a while. So you'll sit down with her first, talk to her about like what you remember from the movie and like either things you loved or hated about the movie. And then you have to like, you do that conversation with her, you leave, you'll go and watch the movie, and then you'll come back and you'll discuss it and see how your like views and everything changed on it. So she sends me a list, right? And the list is like all these movies that like are older movies in the Disney catalog and are stuff that I've recently seen. And the one on there that stood out to me was Home on the Range. So I'm doing an episode of Disflix and Tidbits with Cassie about Home on the Range. We recorded the first part of it the other day, and I have to say credit to Beth because I didn't remember anything about that movie until we talked about it on our animation episode.
That's understandable. I wish I could forget.
So I have to go watch that movie while I'm on my plane ride to Disney World, and it's going to be interesting.
So you're telling me you had to go out and buy a copy of it?
I'm going to cut this, but no, I illegally downloaded that.
I forgot, yeah.
Wow, Brian, what a narc.
Hey, he's the one that said it.
You got me recorded. They're going to arrest me. I'm going to go through TSA checks, and they're going to be like,
the cyber police.
You wouldn't download a car.
I would if I could. Those commercials.
Oh, man.
You wouldn't download a pizza. I wish I could.
I mean, to be fair, technically you probably can now with like 3D printing. Like, I guess that's a thing.
But can you eat it?
No, I mean, you could, but that's probably bad for you.
Is it really a pizza if you can't eat it?
This is true.
Now, car.
Yeah. So let's talk about their bottom 5 because, when they said they were watching all of the movies in order, this was not a way that I expected them to take it. And I'm kind of like laughing at this. Their bottom 5, again, in no particular order, is James and the Giant Peach, the Doug movie, Black Cauldron, and all of the war effort movies. He says Victory Through Air passes, although these movies were animated by Disney, they're just World War II propaganda films. Some of the straight to DVD and video sequels.
Fox and the Hound 2.
And sorry, Kirsten, special mention goes to the Tinkerbell movies, though Charlie disagrees with him.
Oh man, I completely forgot. I don't even know if I would consider James and the Giant Peach an animated film, but one that I completely forgotten about.
Well, I like James and the Giant Peach personally.
When was the last time you saw James and the Giant Peach?
I mean, it's been a minute.
I actually watched it like probably 2 years ago, and like, yeah, that was definitely like a nostalgia thing looking back on it as a kid.
Oh no!
Watching it again, like the first part with whatever it is it like his aunts that he's living with or whatever?
Yeah.
The little first part is like, it's just so cringy. Like going back and looking at it, so I would definitely agree with their pick of it in the bottom 5.
I don't know, man. to each their own, of course, but I am a little upset that Black Cauldron is in this and Home on the Range is not.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, like Black Cauldron was okay for me. It definitely wasn't, the pinnacle of Disney animation, but
was it better than Home on the Range, Brian?
I still haven't seen that entire movie. I don't think I've.
Well, I think that speaks volumes.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm feeling kind of weird about that now. Like the obviously a lot of the straight to DVD sequels I'm totally 100% in agreement on, but I think I kind of agree with Charlie. Some of the Tinkerbell movies are kind of charming. Some of them, not all of them.
I've not seen a single one.
I
know Kirsten keeps recommending them, so maybe eventually I'll get to it, but I'm wondering, I don't remember the Doug movie.
I remember watching Doug on Disney Channel, but I don't remember the Doug movie.
I remember the Doug movie, surprisingly.
From what I heard, I don't really remember watching Doug that much after Disney bought it from Nickelodeon, but I heard that they completely ruined it.
They did. I mean, that's what everyone says, but I haven't gone back and watched Doug in a really long time, so I don't know. But this was it was called Doug's First Movie, I think. And I want to say it definitely was released under Disney and not like Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I remember it being on our list. I just don't remember the movie itself. Maybe I'll have to check that one out, even though it's on their worst list.
Yeah, so thank you for updating us on that, Sam and Charlie. I, again, congratulate you on that journey, because that is not a task I wanted to take. So, is there anything you guys want to talk about before we wrap this mini episode up?
I went and did a little Google search because I feel like I did a really terrible job explaining Max Pass. So I found, I think, a pretty good explanation. I feel like I wanted to clear that up before we closed out so that somebody didn't walk away from it being like, wow, that didn't make any sense at all. So this is from the Undercover Tourist website. It says, the waiting period can vary depending on how far off your return window is from when you booked it. If a ride's return window is less than 30 minutes away, then the waiting period is 30 minutes, unless you activate the Fast Pass within that 30 minutes. Once you scan it at a ride, you're free to make another reservation. If the return window begins between 30 and 90 minutes from when you booked it, the waiting period ends as soon as the return period begins, i.e., if at 2 p.m. you reserve a ride that has a return window of 3 to 4, you can make your next reservation as early as 3 p.m. So I don't know if hopefully that makes more sense than what I said.
Oh, see, well, I wasn't before, but now I'm definitely confused.
Oh, no. Okay, we'll just cut this part out and forget anything about it. Google it, everyone. You just Google it. Reading it is probably easier than hearing it.
I'll put the link to the Max Pass description in the show notes. That way someone can figure it out. I also want to give a shout out because I just tallied up the points for our bracket. Now, how I wanted to do this is I still wanted it to be a raffle for the most part. But if anybody got it at least like mildly close, I was going to give you an extra couple votes in for that, just so like there is incentive for getting it right. But it was going to be between like the top 4 people that got it right, since we got about like 30 votes. So one of our listeners, John, guessed most of this bracket entirely right. The only thing that he got wrong was that Wilderness Explorers was going to make it a little bit farther than it did.
Wow.
Yeah, the only thing that he voted in differently was that Wilderness Explorers would make it past round 4. Other than that, everything else was 100% correct. So like that 1% error is wow. Yeah, that's really good. But yeah, so how we'll do this, I guess this is a good way to wrap it up. I'm going to throw all of the votes in, see who came in second, third, and fourth. And then I'll throw you in with John to like a random number picker. Of course, John will get one extra vote for that. And then whoever comes out on top, I'll send you an email because I have our listener emails, and we'll discuss how I can get you that $25 gift card. Thank you, everyone that played in this bracket, and for everyone that reached out to us and was excited about it. This was really fun, and I'm excited to maybe do something like this again next year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So I'm ready to wrap this week up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Now when I get home from work tomorrow, I can just sit down and edit, and that'll make tomorrow go by quick.
Awesome. So that's gonna go out the week after.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll do the cruise episode. I'll put out Tuesday. My plan is I want to sit down and just edit all of them tomorrow when I get home from work, because I think I'm done at 3 tomorrow. So I'll sit down, I'll do all of my editing and everything, and that was only like about a half hour, so that's going to be a really short one. I'll put all of them on the actual Libsyn account and then just have them auto post. So the cruise one will publish on Tuesday, and then that one will publish on the 26th.
Cool.
Nice.
Sweet.
And then we get kind of a week off.
So you looking forward to your trip?
Oh, I've already set into vacation mode. Like the last couple days, I've just been like, I don't want to do anything. I just like, get me on my plane. I want to go.
Yeah, good.
It's slowly creeping up on me, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through the next 2 days.
You gotta work both days.
Oh yeah, I work tomorrow, and then Tuesday's a short day, so at least there's that. But like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I feel you. Last week before I left, I wasn't worth much that week.
It set in like, I want to say like the end of last week, weirdly enough, because usually like for me it hits so early, and I'm just like the start of the month when I'm going away, I'm like, that's it, I'm done. But like as soon as last week hit, I was like, man, I leave next week. Like I'm not going to be here. And then just it was all downhill. Today I didn't really do anything. I went into work. I did the like bare minimum of what I had to do, and I was like, all right, I'm done. My worth is proved here.
Man, that sounds like me on a regular day. Mostly kidding.
Mostly. I'm just like, we were talking about what we're going to do the first day we're there, and I'm like, all right, now it's really starting to kick in. Now it's like, because we have an early flight, so we should be there by 9, and then to our resort, hopefully by 11 at the latest. So we're like, oh, we have tickets for every day we're there. We're just going to go right to the Magic Kingdom. So I'm like, all right, that's it. That's when it's really starting to set in, is when we made that decision.
Oh, man.
So,
and the flight will be easy because you get to watch Home on the Range.
That's going to be the worst part. Speaking of that, Beth, so I know she's trying to fill out a lot of these before the Disney Plus comes out, because then all of the movies will be out for everyone. James and the Giant Peach is on here if you want her contact info.
Sorry, the internet cut out when you started talking. What was the first part?
No, I was saying that she, when I was talking to her about it, she was saying that she wants to do all of these before Disney Plus comes out, because then all of these movies will be available and like anybody can easily watch them. And I was looking at the list when we were talking about that, and James and the Giant Peach is on there if you want to do an episode with her.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to watch it again. I guess it's been a while because everybody says it's my nostalgia talking.
Well, that like the whole concept that she's doing is super cool, because like when she posted a tweet, she's like, I'm doing this thing. If anybody wants to be a guest on my podcast, let me know. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's, I've got nothing going on. I'll do that. And then when she messaged me, she was like, yeah, so what I'm doing is I want to do like a 2-part interview. Like you'll sit down with me one day and then you'll tell me what you remember about the movie. And then like we won't watch it, but you have to go based purely off of memory and like tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, or if there's like things that stand out in your mind. And like we sat down and I was like, I don't remember who's in this movie. I know that it's like about cows and like all this other stuff. And then she like that took about a half hour. And then she was like, okay, what I want you to do now is we'll end this call and then we'll set up a time for like a part 2. And then we'll come back after we've both watched the movie and see if like our opinion has changed on it. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Where did you say her contact info is?
Here, I will send you her Twitter is at Disflix, DISFLICK, tidbits, TIDBIT. And then her like actual name on there is Disflix and Tidbits podcast. We follow her on the podcast one.
Okay.
But yeah, tell her I sent you the list and that's on there.
Okay.
Because yeah. Shoot, I was gonna say something else and I totally forgot what it was. I don't know. I'm like really kicking into vacation mode now. This is bad.
It's alright, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get through the next 2 days. That's gonna be the worst, but I'll manage somehow.
Man, you're better than me. I struggled like months in advance. I'm like thinking about the trip and I'm like, man, I can't wait for that trip.
I think the thing that really helped me with this is that we didn't like plan to do anything. Like usually I'm not like an over planner, but like I plan enough that like I know where I'm going. The only thing we did for this trip was ADRs and like some fast passes. Like I did fast passes to get us fast passes for Slinky and Flight of Passage, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe like not knowing was enough for me to just be like, well, I'm not really ready for it. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I will let you guys go so we can all hop off for the night.